everyone. I'm going to walk through just a few items. Won't take too long. Didn't put too much together, but first I'll talk a little bit about myself and my brewing history. I'm going to go into some competition stats since I compete a lot. I thought it would be interesting for everybody on the call to see a little bit about how those things shake out when you enter hundreds of competitions. Then I have some efficiency tricks I'll walk through, some things that I'm doing myself. And then I have a sample recipe. I don't really have an approach to it, but I'll share a sample recipe that's done pretty well in competitions with everybody. And we can talk a little bit about that one. And then a Q&A of anything else that might be on somebody's mind that might be helpful. I'm happy to try and share. So I've been brewing since 2018. Not very long in the scheme of things, but enough to get a few under my belt. I have two daughters, 10 and 8-year-old girls, and I do the design thing. So I have a career in product design. Please don't bug me for design asks, though. I try not to do that outside of work too much. And then along with homebrewing, my main way of trying to keep the beer gut off is boxing. And then I used to play a lot of golf, but that's been now occupied with brew days instead, which is not any less expensive. It might be a whole lot more expensive. So it's definitely not saving me any money. And then I think it's just a disclaimer that I should share with anybody is I'm probably doing a lot of things wrong here. I'm self-taught and I'm just trying to make it work and use this info as one possibility and nothing more than that, really. Thank you for the ugly hat. This is not a design I did, but a buddy of mine did that. So the history in 2018, my wife finally got sick of me talking about brewing and bought me a system for Christmas. And then I kind of didn't do anything with it until next year rolled around, and I thought I'll brew an IPA. I love IPAs. I like drinking them. West Coast is my favorite style, so I started off that way. It was okay. It tasted okay, and kind of went from there and brewed occasionally. I had one. She got me a pretty nice system, so I had a unit tank, and I just had one of them, and I would brew once every few months, and was kind of just taking it like that. Then COVID happened, and that was sort of the kickoff of my obsession with all of this because I didn't have anything to do like a lot of people. I couldn't leave the house, but I need something to do. I can't just sit around. So I started brewing quite a bit, and I started just kept buying unit tanks because I didn't have enough to like keep me occupied on a regular basis. And I grew up to 4 unit tanks at that point, and then a little bit after that, I grew a few more kind of custom-made tanks that I had put together that I thought might be good for bright tanks, but ended up being good for fermenters. So I have about 8 5-gallon fermenters that I use, and then I have a couple of overflow fermenters if I'm trying to brew a lot. 2021, I kind of took it on myself to learn how to brew hazy. Started out pretty poor. Couldn't keep the haze. Couldn't keep oxidation from happening. Made a lot of bad batches, and then I started kind of figuring some things out, read some different books and articles. The Scott Janish book was probably one of the more helpful ones. And I started getting a little bit better at it. And I didn't really realize there was a thing like competing. So I Googled like big homebrew competition, and the NHC came up. And I thought, well, what the heck? I'll just enter this. So it's the first competition I entered. And I entered I had a barrel-aged beer, I think, at that point. And then a hazy IPA. I just entered 2 beers. And this was a year when they didn't have the first round. It was just like you enter your beers and see what happens. Forgot about it. And one day I was like, oh, I wonder what happened with that competition. And it happened to be like the day they were releasing the results. So we watched the video live. And I managed to win a gold with a hazy IPA in the first comp, which is kind of weird. And I was like, okay, well, that was cool. Maybe that stuff is easy. I don't know. I definitely been humbled since then. And I have not won another NHC medal since that time, and I've tried. And we're trying again this year, and we'll see what happens. But got lucky that first time. I think there were 109 entries that I went against, and I was able to pull that medal. 2023, I was brewing a lot, like every week. And so I was trying to win our local Arizona Society of Homebrewers. That's what ASH means. We have a very big local club here. There's a a lot of competitions that go into the home brewer of the year. Some are club only competitions, and other are larger national competitions. And I was able to squeeze that one out and win that award, which allowed me to brew at a local shop here. I'll show you one of those cans and scale up my beer, which is pretty cool. And then last year, I was able to win the Bru Club. Got lucky there and had a few good comps that I strung together and did pretty well. And if y'all have questions, I can just keep talking, or I can, talk a little bit about whatever questions you have. So here's a stack of some medals that I've won since. I don't know, probably a couple hundred at this point, maybe 250 different medals. But I still kind of enjoy competing and trying to win. It's pretty good little stack. I'm running out of space on my medal rack, but we'll figure that out. The ribbons go in a drawer. I try not to do too many of the ribbon comps anymore. So that the stats, I think maybe you'd be interested in. I started out with 2 competitions in 2022. That one was actually the second one was the Ash competition. I got best of show at the Fest Beer on that. So that was my second competition. I got a best of show, which that was pretty cool too. And then in 2023, I thought maybe I'll enter some more comps. So I kind of did toward the end of the year, enter some comps. And then I set a personal goal last year. I'm going to enter 100 competitions. I figured out I could brew every week, enter 100 competitions and see what happens. And I did. I think I entered 105 or 106 total. Don't do that if it's completely miserable and your life is obsessed with brewing and it's too hard. This year I'm doing 50 and it feels like a walk in the park, like real easy. So I barely have to do anything at all for 50, but the 100 was killing me and just absolutely brutal. But I did get some data. So last year I tried to tally up my data here, and I think it'll show you like you're not going to win every time here. This is the breakdown of the comps. I entered 529 entries and 67 golds, which is 12.7%. The average score of that, which I think is kind of good to see that, and it holds fast this year too. It's pretty much consistent. Was 30, a little less than 40 for the golds, and that ranged anywhere. Like I actually had one in the 20s won a gold, and I also had one that was 49, which I got a 50 score sheet on, which I'm going to show the recipe for. Was a high on that one, and then silver a little bit higher percentage rate for me, and then bronze I wasn't doing as well, but I lost 63% of the time. And those average beers were a little over 32, which is kind of funny. Like if you've looked at some of the stats that Reggie has, it's like right on the money, like average score for beers. And I think it has to do with how judges are kind of comfortable rating their beers as well. So you kind of fall right in there. So that's kind of the expectation that I've seen and has carried over into 2025. What I've also seen in the competitions is try not to enter any that have like kind of shitty medals at this point. I'm trying to go for the greats. So here's Drunk Monk. I was able to pull 3 golds in 2024, but I think I got a silver this year. Didn't do too well in it. And then the next one is the St. Louis Brew Competition. I think it's like Happy Holidays. And then this other one, I'm not sure, All American Homebrew Competition. I entered a lot of just random competitions. Although they have medals, which is nice, like the quality is drastically different between the hardware that you get, and the competitions cost the same to enter. So I'm kind of like skewing towards the little nicer hardware. And then I put together a list that people may want to know, like the stuff that arrived that was nice. So you'll probably recognize a few of these. Some of them are on the Bru Club circuit, but these are all like pretty stellar hardware. Tried to help out Haven a little bit last year. I think I took a picture of every medal that I had and sent it to him so you could kind of judge that and coming up with the circuit as well. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful there too. These are some great ones. I know a lot of you are probably like members of these clubs or have been in the comps. And then some averages, if that's like interesting. I feel like 37%. Last year I was trying to do 50. I was like, I'm gonna win 50% of the time. Like I wanna try to win 50%. I don't know if it's possible if you enter enough competitions. I mean, maybe it is if you're a really awesome brewer that more awesome than I am at all. But 37 is kind of what I see. And I've been looking kind of at different stats across different places. And if you ever want to like know how people are scoring, you can go to the Midwest Homebrewer competition, Midwest Homebrewer of the Year. They've got like historical records, win rates, what beers that people are winning with, how they're doing in the competitions in that circuit. And they have like amazing data. And I'm seeing like the people that you probably see on leaderboards, they're all kind of like average out around like the 35, 36, 37% win rate over time, which seems to be kind of like the way you can pull if you're entering a lot of comps. Difference between beers. This is from 2025. I had a big difference in this one. I'll show you on the next slide. 21.5 points in scoring. So you're going to see like a wide range. Obviously, everybody sees that it competes. A wide range of scoring of your beer, depending on where you're entering it, how they judged it. But I kind of see like an average of 10. It's if you enter in enough competitions, there's kind of like once you have a score, it's like not going to vary much more than 10. Depending on where it is, it's like plus or minus a little bit on how the beer scores and how really good the beer is or how you feel it is. It's around 10, at least for the beers I'm entering. And then BOS, I've won a few, but it's like 5% of the time, so it's pretty hard to get it. And I've only had one beer that's the same beer win twice in 2 different competitions. That was a liked beer last year that I won it at a couple of BOSs at. Here's the example variants of the beer that I just talked about, the 21.5. So this is an American IPA. I'm not drinking the exact one, but I make a lot of these. I have 2 IPAs going now. I make IPAs all the time. This is a really good beer, like fantastic, phenomenal beer. I really like crush the shit out of this keg, but I don't, and so I've been entering it. I've entered it 13 times. It's only won 6 times. It's 46% win rate. With an average score of 36. I think the beer is fantastic. Like, I really think it's superb. Low of 21.5 and a high of 43. And the 21.5, I was reading the score sheet on it just to refresh myself. The comments were, it's too dank, it's too catty, has a lingering bitterness. It's like all the things I was going for. So I didn't feel too bad about it, but they were not happy about the cattiness of the Simcoe that was pretty prevalent in the beer. But the beer's done well overall. It has 2 golds, 2 silver, 2 bronze, won a Best of Show at Extravaganza, and it got me first place at Blue Bonnet. So I'm like pretty happy with it. So I guess moral of the story is if you're entering and you're like getting, your beer's good and you're getting a 20, like don't worry about it. Like I used to get really upset about these things, and I don't care at all anymore, just because it's such a wide variety of judging. So I'm gonna stop right there because I have a bunch more slides. I think I have 30 total, so that's a third of the way in here. And if anyone has any questions, happy to like stop there on the stuff we covered so far. Otherwise, I'll just keep going.
Yeah, I got a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep, of course.
Okay, I got a new microphone, so just had to check. Out of the, let's say the 100 you submitted last year, how many were the same beer, or how many varieties did you submit?
I think I probably did. I haven't totaled out the varieties, but I think it was probably around 30, 35 maybe. Varieties of beer would be my estimate. And that's just kind of off the cuff. It could be 40, it could be 30, but it's somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Yeah, I brew primarily specific styles of beer that I like to drink. I don't tend to drink a lot of them because I'm sending them off, but I brew a lot of lagers, a lot of IPAs, and then anything else where it makes sense.
Would it be multiple batches of like the same beer? So it's not just one batch, send it to whatever, you're done for the year.
Multiple batches. So like I enter a lot of Schwarz beers. Over the course of the year, I probably brew 4 batches of it. And so when I say 4 batches, I'm gonna get into like how I brew. It's actually like 8 5-gallon batches of the beer, and then I'll submit those if they're good to comps. I brew more hazies. Pretty much I'll constantly have hazies, and now constantly West Coast IPAs are fermenting, which is like more batches than that. Like I'll do 20 or 30 batches of those.
What were you saying about? I see here that you said you got 6 wins for this one IPA, but I thought I heard you say you haven't medaled for the same beer. Well, I don't know. I think I missed it.
I haven't gotten best of show like twice except for the one. So even though I've entered like a lot of, I get a best of show, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll win another best of show. It's like, sorry, not gonna happen. So that's sort of the thing. And I mean, I don't get to enter, like same comment Dan just had is like, I'm only getting them in so many comps, and then it's a new batch. So I run out of the beer because I'm probably bottling off a 24 pack of them, and then that's it. The rest of it is like waste or like having friends over and grabbing a beer. So the 24 are going out, to 10 comps. That's kind of done. So like that batch of IPA, it's gone. So it's wrapped up.
Okay.
Awesome. I'll keep going then.
You've got a question from Brent, by the way.
Was there another one? All right, Brent, what's up?
Yeah. So what I guess my question about your bottling process, and what do you recommend for? I mean, you may have a little bit more needs than the average competition entry, but what type of a bottling equipment do you recommend?
What I use is a beer gun, and I bottle and can. I have it right, like, see my canner and bottler right here, and heater in case it gets cold here in Arizona, which is weird. But I just use a beer gun, and I'm pretty like, I have a few of those tips in a later slide, so I can get into it, but I'm pretty fastidious about the process itself. But it mainly consists of like making sure the bottle is in a specific condition, and then purging, obviously, and capping on foam. But I primarily do cans, but I'm having a problem with my can seamer right at the moment, so I'm all bottles right now. So I'm just like bottling up. I mean, there's some benefits to me using bottles too. It's just a little bit more of a hassle for me because I have so many different bottles now that I don't have a place to like put them. So I'm kind of getting a backlog. Whereas cans, I can like stack them up in the fridge real easy, and probably get twice as many beers when I can them, just from a capacity standpoint. Like right now, all my fridges are full, so I prefer the canning. But I'll walk through a little bit of the process itself a little bit later. I guess there's a few more questions. Jeff? Or yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I was
don't know which one.
curious, when you got to the craziest of entering all the comps, did you ever find that you wanted to enter something that scored low in a different category, or did you do that a lot, moving categories around?
I've done that. I move beers and categories, and those are usually the lager beers that I'm making. And sometimes it works pretty well. I have American lager and American light lager, and international pale lagers that I substitute, and I enter them all kind of randomly. They're all sort of the same. They're different beers. I have like a lighter version and a heavier version, but I'll kind of mix and match them, especially if I get feedback about sometimes my light. If I enter it in a light, they get comments about it being like a little bit more of an American lager, so I'll switch it back and forth. I honestly, they're so close. I don't see like hey, I put it in the right category and now I'm doing a lot better. It's sort of just as random as the other results. All right. Let's see, Will.
Oh, that might be
have
from
any
earlier.
Sorry, I forgot to put my hand down.
All right. I thought it might be. I'll keep going. Give you guys some more info. Let me know if the screen's not showing for some reason. So we'll talk about the competition strategy. And so I pretty much won't enter beers that I don't like really like myself. Sometimes I will if I just have one and I got to fill, and I'm just like, okay, I'll throw this in there. But I mainly only enter the beers that like are really good to me when I drink them. I'm like, okay, that's good enough. I feel like I should enter it. So if I feel the beer is really good, I feel like it's going to do pretty well. And then it's just kind of numbers game if it ends up medaling or not. And if you enter, I typically try to enter 6 beers per comp because I ship them in 12 packs. And so if you enter 6 and they all feel they're really good, like pretty much gonna get a medal. Like just, I mean, the math of it turns out, you're winning at that 35, 40% rate. You're gonna get 1 to 2. Sometimes you get 4, sometimes you get 5. And then rarely you don't like get shut out at the comps. So instead of just a multiplication of the number of entries times that average, it tends to shake out pretty well. And then like to prove it, like great beers are going to lose. I lose a lot with awesome beers. So I try not to get too upset about it anymore. It used to bother me, but like I said, it doesn't really much. But like a 43 beer will score a 33. Like if you drink a beer and you're like, you judge this beer, you're like, this is a 43, 45 beer. I mean, it's going to pull in the 30s and you're not going to win. And that's just the way it's going to go. If you have a beer that's like, you're kind of like, I'm not so sure about it, it still can win. Like I feel like a 33 beer could pull a 38. And plenty of beers that I've entered, I'm like, this is like low 30s to me, and I'll pull a 37 or 38 and I'll get a bronze with it. But you'll also get in the 20s. Like I'll get a lot of beers in the 20s in that case. But it kind of gives me like enough, like you enter enough, you kind of like, okay, that's what this beer settles in at. It's like this average score. And I think that the judges tend to like skew low. It's like they're a little scared or something to like score you too high, but they will. Like you get some that will, and it's usually like the national judges will score you pretty high, at least in my experience. They're a little more willing to give up some points. So I see like kind of a lot of the national judges and higher tend to score the beers a little bit higher, which kind of makes sense. So I do send some test beers. Like I'm not sure of the style. That's the one where I'm like, I think it tastes good, but I have no clue. I never brewed a Belgian wit before. I'm gonna like send it off, but I'm gonna send it to comps that I'm not like I don't care about the comp that much because it's not in a circuit that I'm competing in. So I compete on the MHP Circuit of America. This circuit, my own club circuit. There's a couple other circuits that I try to compete in. And I won't send the beer to those comps. I'll send it to like just one that has cool medals that maybe I'll win, so I can get a little bit of feedback. And then if it does well, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'm good enough to send that off. And that's mainly styles that I'm just not familiar with, that I happen to have brewed. And then if I get feedback on that beer too, and I want to rebrew it, I will, and I read the feedback, and I do tweak the beers off of that feedback. So that's kind of how I try to win heavier in the circuits that matter. And so I try to do some things with efficiency tricks on beers that I've dialed in, and I double batch almost everything. So I have a 10-gallon system. Show you since I'm standing right here. So I have these spike tanks and a 20-gallon mash tun. That's my 3-vessel system, and then back behind it I have a single vessel 10-gallon system. And I pick one, like I'm gonna brew one kind of depending on what I'm making, and then I'll split those beers off. One of them's always going to be better. Like it's just like the nature of the beast. Even if I make them identical, it's like one of them's just a little bit better. And so that's the one I intend to enter. And the other one, if it's not quite there, that's the one I'm like sharing with people or bringing to the club or giving to people that come over. It's still good beer. I just probably wouldn't enter it in a competition. Like the one I'm drinking right now is a West Coast IPA. It's really great. The other one was way better. This is the double IPA. So the other one I'm entering, and this one I'm sipping away, and then I probably will enter it a couple of times, but not as much as the other one.
Are you doing like 2 different yeasts or anything like that, or are they exactly the same and just one happens to come out better?
No, I do. I change a variable, and I'm going to walk through a bunch of screens on the variables that I change. So basically, I do these efficiency tricks, and then here's kind of an example. So like with lagers, I always do 2 yeasts, just because that's like the variable I can work with mainly. So not every time, but most of the time I'm just trying different yeasts or doing 2 yeasts that I really like. And then they both come out interesting, or they both come out good, or one of them's kind of just not there. Like I did a Czech premium. We did that with Trevor Tyner's on the club here, and another guy at the club, and they wanted to do some techniques, so we kind of like all split it off into different things. And so I ended up with two that had two different hop profiles and two different yeasts, and one of them was like significantly better. So that's the one I entered. I think I just got a best of show on that. That was the one I just got a best of show at. So it's stuff like that. Dry hop, I usually use the same yeast, and then I change the dry hops. So I'm just like modifying dry hops. It's a variable I like to play with. Like I have a double IPA and a single IPA. They're basically the same beer, and I just hop them today. And one of them I put kind of like the dank caddy hops, and the other I put fruity hops in. And that way I just have two different experiments to kind of go with. And then I water back a lot. Like I'm constantly watering back. I just take RO water out of my system. I dump it right in the fermenter. I don't have any problems with infection or anything like that. And like the double IPA, single IPA, I brewed a double IPA, and then I made one into a single IPA just by watering it back. And that gives me like two different entries that I can mess with. An example for a lager is I've done pretty well with this rice lager, which is 20% rice, 80% pills. Well, Hallertauer, and then I just water back one a little, like make a light lager. I don't want. Sometimes I water it back after fermentation too, which makes pretty good light lagers, but usually I'm not that ambitious, so I'll just water back prior to fermentation, and then I'll do a couple of different yeasts, and I ended up with two different types of beers. Another one is IPA and Pilsner. So my beers, you'll notice, like I'm giving you like the recipe because it's like Pilsner. It's like nothing in it in the beer. I try not to really put much in the most of my beers. It's like a lot of Pilsner malt and some little character malt here and there. But like my IPA is like Pilsner, and I have some color that I add with golden naked oats kind of at the end, but to give it a little color. So I mean, this is Pilsner malt, golden naked oats. Popping it to about 75 IBUs and then watering back. I can make a dry hop pills, which I'll do frequently. So it's just like same exact beer. I got two different styles out of it. Here's another one with pills. In fact, this recipe is not even right. It's a typo here. But imagine that was all Pilsner malt. And so the New Zealand Pilsner is like a German Pilsner with dry hops, New Zealand hops. So I'll make a German Pils, and then I dry hop one. I add New Zealand Pils, and it's like the best New Zealand Pils I've made. It's just this. It's just like a German Pils with like Nelson in it, and a couple other New Zealand hops, and like it's done very well competitions. But one beer, Mexican lager. This is one I scaled up. When we did a collaboration, it's like Pilsner, Karn, Vienna, a little touch of that. And one of them, a little more advanced here, but I split into two fermenters, and I just on the stovetop, like made a tea, like a dark component to give myself a Mexican amber. And the amber won a gold at Drunk Monk. And I wasn't even brewing an amber. And then I just have the Mexican lager too, so they can kind of manipulate your beers a bit. And then this one I just did was the wheat beer. I just example of that was American wheat. Wheat beer. These were two comp beers for Ash, my club, where you get extra points. They're like, we're gonna do American wheat and wheat beer. I'm like, sweet. Then I just brew one, then I have two, and these two I put into different boiled kettles. So I have two boiled kettles sitting here, so I can do that if I want to. But one mash, same ingredients. And Shane's wheat will not win. Mine's already won a gold, Shane. I mean, I don't know if yours is a proven wheat there, but just hopped them differently and for yeast.
Mine's lagering to perfection.
I'm sure it's going to be awesome, but it's not going to. I mean, second place seems to be a good spot for you for that one.
I do seem to get a lot more silvers and bronzes than gold.
Yeah, it happens. I'm just kidding.
My favorite name for a beer this past weekend for Blue Bonnet was what? Second again? And he got second place.
That was a good call.
That was a really, really good pull there.
No,
Whoever made that
that's a
beer.
bold move.
Yeah.
But when you're like looking at the guidelines, and a lot of you judges, so you're probably like, oh, well, I guess it's one way to look at it. But like American wheat and wit beer, if you look at the stats, it's like the same. So the only difference is the things that I manipulated that were different, which is the yeast and the hopping of the beer. So like different hot side additions for these beers. So everything else is the same. So I'm like, why am I gonna? I'm not gonna make two of these. Just make one. I don't want two wit beers anyway. And then the American light and the American lager, and you see this like across all guidelines. Like any different style of beer, you're like got the different categories, and it's just the same beer, but one is like more watered down than the other. So I kind of look at that stuff, and whenever I'm making something that I don't want two of, I just find another one that's close enough and then manipulate it into the other style. This one's a real easy one to do. And that's why I kind of like there was a question around like, do you like cross entry these? Well, yeah, because my American light lager like is probably around 4%. And then my American lager was 5. And I wouldn't enter the American lager in the light, but the light I'll kind of toggle back and forth between styles and see how it does. Other considerations. This is probably the most important thing that I've done for myself is being patient. I have the ability to be patient because I have enough capacity to do so, and sometimes I have to be patient because I can't move the beer fast enough. But I try not to enter any beers that are less than 7 weeks old when the brew date, even my hazy beers. And then lagers are like 10 weeks plus. And it's just, the product is so much better if you follow like this type of schedule, or at least that's what I've encountered. So like if I not want to enter a hazy, like 2 months out, I'm brewing the beer. 2 weeks of fermentation, ale yeast, just kind of settle it out, get it off. I use a unit tank, so it's easy for me. And then I just let it sit there. Like I kind of let it chill. And then I start dry hopping, 24 hours of contact time, and then I'm pulling the hops after 3 days. And then I let it sit. Like the hops are out, it just sits. Same temperature, just chilling. And then I slowly crash it, just like 2 degrees in the morning, 2 degrees in the evening, until it gets down to as cold as my fermentation vessels will get it, which right now in the winter is like the unit tanks are around 38 degrees, and that's about it. That's as cold as they get. The summer.
So you're dry hopping that 3 weeks into fermentation?
Yep, 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I've done it earlier, but I'm not in a rush anymore, and so I'm just kind of letting it go through its cycles. And then after it's dropped to 38, 37 degrees, I keg it off, and then 2 weeks, got to be 2 weeks in the keg. Otherwise, it's not. Even though I use unit tanks and I spoon the beer, it's still got 2 weeks. It's got to clear all the hop matter. It's got to carbonate up properly, and then bottle. And I like to bottle 2 weeks before judging, just to give it a chance to recover from bottle shock. And it's worked pretty well. So that's a beer like a lot of people will be like, oh wait, got to get this thing out like in 3 weeks because it's going to oxidize. But I don't do that. Like I think it's much better. And my beers, before, I get a lot of feedback from guys in the club. Shane probably gave me that feedback. It's like your IPAs are like super astringent. They're like eating a bag of hops. And it's like I didn't give it enough time. I was rushing it. I couldn't settle out the hops and kind of give it that conditioning time that it needed. And lagers is like the same process, but not dry hopping. It's just sitting there.
Yeah, question about your bottling. Do you ever like bulk bottle, or are you typically trying to bottle on demand for what you're shipping off to a competition?
I bulk bottle. So if I have a comp and I don't have any bottles yet because the beer's just like sort of getting ready, then I'll pull off 1 or 2 bottles or 4 bottles. But shortly thereafter, I do them all. So I put them all in bottles, and then they all go in the refrigerator, and then I enter them over the course of a couple months. until they're gone. So I bottle them all off and leave them. No O2. So I mean, it's like everybody knows this, but I'm pretty like religious about it. I try to just not have O2 anywhere in the process except when I'm adding it prior to pitching the yeast. Everywhere else, it's like no dough, low dough, and basically throughout for all the beers. I don't care as much if it's a dark beer, but I definitely care into all the other styles. And I use potassium metabisulfite for like scavenging possibility of oxygen. So even though I dry hop with this hop like bong thing that I can purge, I still put just like the most minuscule piece. 0.4 grams is what I go with per 5 gallons, 6 gallons in the fermenter. So I dry hop it. I put it in there with a dry hop. I also do that on kegging for beers that have like a lot of hop content. Even though my keg is like fully purged, I just do just a little bit in there just to kind of scavenge off. And then when I purge and fill bottles, we're talking a little bit about that. Like I'll make sure my bottles are dry or don't have any residual bubbles or don't have any star sand or anything like that in there. And then I purge them. I just leave the caps on them for a while and walk away, and then come and purge again, and then fill and cap on foam. I don't get comments on oxidation at all. Nate, question.
Yeah, can I ask how you're getting the your K-Meta into the keg? How are you administering that?
So I just measure it off, and then I'll show you right here. So when I'm putting it in the keg, probably, I don't know if you can even see the kegs, right? So I just take the blow off, I unscrew it, and then I put it right in the blow off. And I screw it right back on. So pretty easy process. I use the blow off quite a bit for putting different things like gelatin into the keg, post fermentation hop additions, products like hop keef. I now have this stuff. It's called Abstract Quantum. Always through the blow off, just unscrew it, put it in, screw it back on, and you're good. There's actually like back pressure even, so that's why I do a little more. Like the K-Med, I think it's a little bit higher than I do, but even when I'm pouring it in there, kind of like a little bit kind of like blows out because there's still like this residual CO2 in there, so I'm not worried about it. Drop it right in. Will, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious. How are you doing those like grain teas, and then are you just effectively adding those for color and
yeah, so
flavor
so
too?
when I do it, yep, I just use these bags. If you at the brew shop, use these for everything. Different additions in the keg. I just put the grains right in there, and then I in that case, the example I had, it was boiling in like a side kettle, and then I just steep it in there, just in the boil, like a little steep. I think for that example, might have been pre-boil, might have been like actually, I don't think it was in the boil. It was about 150 degrees because I'm like, oh, I'll duplicate the mash temperature. Just steep it in there, and then I did a little boil afterwards, and then I just kind of side dump it into the other wort.
Okay, so essentially, you're like sort of like making a whatever that black stuff, Cinnamar kind of like deal. Not as thick, but yeah, just like a color.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's like a dye for my the beers that I've used it for. And I don't do that for like every beer. That was just like if I can squeeze out a different one. Like if I was gonna do like a Czech and a Czech amber, like I'd do that. Why not? Probably not gonna be a ton of character in there. Seems to work pretty good.
I like that.
Let's see what else. Oh, so here's like a test. This is like test I came up with. I make so many hazy IPAs, and I did this just for this presentation. This is a double IPA, double hazy IPA, about 8%. I just kegged it off, and a couple of days ago, I pull a sample, and I just let it sit out. And if it still looks like a beer you would drink, I wouldn't drink it because it's pretty gross at that point. Like I'm pretty confident that it's not going to oxidize in the bottle. So I do that with most of my hazies. Like I'll just pull off that, let it sit on the counter. And if it's still bright 2 days in, 3 days in, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like it's not, every once in a while, it's like, you look at it, it looks like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's like gray cardboard. Then I know it's not going to work out. And I kind of just try to plow through that one, or like I don't enter it in competitions because I'm worried it'll oxidize in the bottle. But it's a good little trick there for this style of beer to kind of see if, hey, am I going to get oxidation? And how stable is my haze and how's it look? Yeast harvesting. So I try not to buy yeast. I harvest the yeast. I use these little glass jars here. Got these on Amazon. Yes. And I used to use the ball jars, but these are a little bit better, a little more durable, and give a little better indication of volume. So I just pull the yeast. When I'm using my conical, I'll pull off the yeast a little bit. When it starts to settle, I toss that. And then as it settles, I'm just kind of pulling a little here and there into the jar, making sure it's very sanitary, and then repitch it. So like primarily a repitch. Like I don't do a lot of yeast. And then I have flat bottom fermenters. If you don't have conicals, like this works fine too. It's just like when it's done fermenting, and these are lagers that have been sitting on the yeast for a long time, just get it out of there. And then I put it in a gallon, like big gallon container, and let it settle off and decant. And it's great yeast. I use it all the time. And well, I don't know if it was another question or if remaining.
Yeah, no. So with your unscientific test of leaving that hazy out, what's your theory on what causes the oxidation in hazies? Do you think it's yeast in suspension, hop in suspension, something else? It seems like you've kind of maybe solved or maybe not solved, but got a workaround for that issue.
I think it's a combination of any time oxygen can be involved in the process from hot side to cold side. Deaerating water, not having any oxygen when you're mashing. I don't know if everyone agrees. Shane would not agree with me at all on this, but I try not to have any oxygen in the process. Do silly things like purge with CO2 in the mash tun. I don't know if that does a whole lot, frankly. And then the K meta makes a big difference, like huge, just because you're kind of like dumping hops in there, there's going to be some oxygen in there. And then I'm agitating the hops. That it's just like cleans up. You barely put any. It's like tiny. It's not even perceptible. It's below the threshold where you'd even need to tell anybody. And it's just like a safety valve. So I think that really is like a big benefit to that type of beer.
Are you using primarily the same yeast strain for hazies?
I do. I have a house developed strain, which is part of the benefits of doing that. But a good component of it is your juice London Fog strain. That's the best one that I've found for making that style of beer. But I have some other things in it. Nate?
Yeah, just to confirm, so you're doing that 0.4 grams of potassium metabisulfite twice. You're doing that at dry hop and then at kegging. Is that correct?
For a hazy IPA, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You could use a little less. Brulosophy has a bunch of videos on people who've done it. I know it's like widely kind of known at this point that it's an effective thing. They use 0.3 per 5, I think, on one of the studies I saw. So you like in that range. I use 0.4 because, like I said, when I'm putting it in the keg, it's sort of like I lose a little. So it's like, I just weigh out like 0.4, 0.45, whatever. And I know a little gets lost, but just a little enough gets in there and kind of scrub off anything. But don't do it per gallon. That's if you're doing a cider. So you want to kill off everything. And that's the dosing rate. So it's easy to remember. Like, if I want to kill off everything, it's that times 5. But if you just want to scavenge a little oxygen, it's just 20%. Dan.
When you reuse your yeast, I'm starting to reuse my yeast now, and I have a conical also, but I've noticed that I'm getting too much yeast. Maybe some of it's dead, some of it's good, but it seems to be working well, but just getting volumes, getting too much. Do you wash it or do you reduce it at all? Or I kind of got confused on when you say you take multiple samples.
Yeah, so with the conical, I'm pulling off like whatever dropped first, I assume is probably less viable. So that's the one I'm getting rid of. I'm just like getting rid of it because it's easy to like first pull. I see yeast. I'm like, oh, I have sight glasses on my conical so I can see it.
Right.
So I see the yeast settle. Like, oh, it's time to come on and bring it off. And after that, I'm just like, as it settles, as it's dropping, I'm like grabbing some. I'll come in every day or two and like grab a little bit more until I have all of it. And then I use all of that. If I look at the yeast and it looks like something needs to be not put in the beer, then that is the thing that I address. So sometimes there's this like murky stuff on the top, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know enough to tell you if that's good or bad, but I like maybe it's great. And I'm like, I'm just gonna take that off of there. I'm kind of looking for just the nice, like milky, like beautiful stuff. Like I have a really good example of one over here that I'm harvesting, and this is what I'm looking for. And I'll harvest yeast too. So this is in the progress of bottle harvesting off of yeast, but I'm looking for that. Like that looks perfect. So this is off of a Trumer Pills bottle that I'm running through various cycles of propagating the yeast. And so that's what I want to go in the beer, or what it looks like that. So I look for that in whatever I harvest. And so sometimes I will wash it if it like kind of looks like it needs something, or it's a little darker beer.
So that wasn't a fermenter. That was just what you're harvesting off?
Yeah, that's off a bottle. So you can harvest off of bottles if it's a beer has a valuable yeast in it. And I started doing that last year. I did that off of a Iinger Dunkel beer. I'm like, oh, I love this beer. I'm gonna use the yeast. And that thing was like clear as could be. Like there wasn't any sediment in it. There wasn't anything at the bottom. And I harvested off like after 6 rounds, basically kind of building up a starter basically. I had a nice pitch. I pitched it into a lighter gravity beer, and then I had a lot of it, like tons. And I used that for, I don't know, 6 months. Like I said, I try to not buy yeast. I have a lot of yeast in there that like I've gotten from different comps and things like that, but I don't really try to use them too much. The only one I ever buy is 3470, and I buy them in this quantity because like if you're doing enough beer, like don't buy these little tiny packages. I got like a brick of it, and it's just sitting like that's not gonna last forever. So I don't have to buy any, and it's like the cost is so much cheaper at that rate.
Don't seal it up. You don't seal that up. I mean,
I just reseal it. Yeah.
But nothing like you don't package them in individual and seal it long term. It's just open it, use it, seal it.
Yeah. Okay. Careful with it. Like I keep it like not doing anything too wild and crazy with it. But this one I'll probably actually seal off in a jar. The next size down is the best one for like homebrewers. It's the 100 gram. Like buy the 100 gram. Especially if you're using 3470 or any lager yeast, don't buy the 11 gram sachets. They're like total like waste because you have to pitch so many. So the 100 grams, those I would just like retape. This one is a little bit bigger because I'm like, I don't need to worry about it. So I'm going to put it probably in one of the same yeast jars that's been sterilized, and then be careful pitching it off.
On the yeast that you saved after using it, pulling it basically off of fermentation, how long have you sat in the refrigerator? How long what's the life of it? Have you had pros, cons, long-term storage? 6 months,
I don't.
a year?
I don't like going 6 months, like 2 or 3,
Okay.
maybe. I kind of like check it, and if it like stinks, like you shouldn't put it in a beer. That's the like I'm not gonna use this yeast. So that's sort of the policy. But if it's like smells nice and sweet and like it smells good, looks good, it's not gray. Like if they start to turn like black and like gray,
Yeah.
like no thanks.
Yeah.
But if it still looks good and like it's been 3 months, I'm not too worried about it, especially if I have a lot of it. If I don't have enough of it, then I'll do a starter on it. But I don't do that too often. I usually only do the starter for when I'm building up bottled harvested yeast.
Have you got into yeast cell counting or anything that far? Microscope?
I haven't, but I when I did one of my co-brews with a brewery, we went through all of that process. I counted cells, so I'm familiar with it. I have a SOP on how to do it, but I haven't invested in a microscope or bothering with it, so I'm just eyeballing it at this point. I think maybe I'll find a microscope off eBay and try at some point, but it's been so effective to just like put the yeast in and like they're good, and it works. Like rarely do I ever have any problem. The only time I've ever had a problem was with Nova Lager, and it just died on me. That's the only time I've ever had an issue.
Yeah, I have a microscope I've inherited, and it's a real nice one. So I just need to have the special cell counter plate and a die and stuff like that. And so I'm like, that's not too expensive. Might as well give it a try.
Yeah.
So
Totally. I mean, it's pretty low investment. You can
Yeah.
count them off, just like eyeball it, and you kind of know.
So it wasn't that hard, wasn't that complicated. Once you have basically those three things: microscope, a cell count, I forgot the name of it, but and die.
The specific dye, I'd have to look up what it was, but it's like a blue, like a something blue.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody on the call knows what it's called. All I remember was don't like ingest that stuff because it's cancerous. The instructions on that thing was don't drink the blue dye. Definitely
I won't
blue, there you
reuse
go.
the yeast. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Scott.
Hey Ross, did I hear you say you agitate your dry hops? I assume you're pushing CO2 back up through there. Did I understand that correct?
Yeah, 100%. It's a must. It's a must
And
for dry
you've
hop
noticed
beers.
a significant improvement by doing that?
Yes, major improvement. I'll show you. If you don't mind me giving a little tour here. So if you can see, but here's the bottom of the conical. You can see the hops in the sight glass. And then I have a way of purging off CO2 and just blowing it right up through the bottom. And this has been dry hop this morning. And I just monitor like the condition of the hops. And here I can tell these have been saturated. I'm only going to blow them up a few more times up into the vessel, and then I'm going to start pulling them off tomorrow. But when I didn't do that, my hops didn't feel like you'd use a lot of hops, and you'd be like, there's no hops. Like this beer doesn't have aroma, doesn't have any like hop characteristics. And mainly it was because the hops are coming out and they weren't getting saturated. If you have a way of doing it differently and you don't have a conical, like a layered agitation would work too. But with the conical layer, it's just like fall like right in and pack. So you probably, like if you dry hop beers and you use a unit tank, you're probably getting like cases where you can't get the hops off. Like trying to like dump the hops and they're just sticking in there. That means it was not a good hopping, because they should come off real nice. So once they're like saturated, they come out of there perfectly. But if they're not agitated, they tend to dry, they soak up the beer, and then they just sit at the bottom and don't actually get like mixed in.
How many times will you agitate that over the course of the 3-day dry hop?
10 times, maybe.
Okay.
I consider it a 1-day dry hop. I don't agitate it after the first day. I'll agitate this tonight. I've done it maybe 5 times. I'll do it tonight. I'll do it in the morning. And then I'll start hauling off the hops in the afternoon. And I dry hopped it like 10 a.m.
Cool.
Would you do that for like pale ales and like dry hop lagers where you have a lighter hop charge? You still or still kind of rouse them?
Yep.
And I'm sorry, what temperature are you dry hopping at? Or are you dropping?
I dry hop at 70 degrees or I dry hop at 50 degrees, and they both work equally well. You can hear plenty of podcasts and opinions on it. Cold dry hop, hot dry hop, lower than 50, higher than 50. Like North Park is a place that I really like respect. He dry hops at 70. Other people dry hop at 50. I do both. Kind of depends a little bit. Like I think there's probably a little bit of like harshness if it's a little hotter, but it's not something that I've really noticed a big difference between.
But you've dumped all the yeast out at this point before you dry hopped?
I've dumped all the yeast, yeah. And I use ALDC. And when I'm using ALDC, I'm much more comfortable with it being a 50-degree dry hop. Main reason I would do it at 70 degrees is if I didn't use ALDC and I wanted to make sure that I didn't get diacetyl. Awesome. I just have a couple slides. I'll get through those and then happy to answer any more questions. So we covered that. It's like literally 2 slides. So this Schwartz beer, I shared this like, I don't know, a year ago with the Bru Club. We were all kind of joking around. Share your Schwartz beer recipe. I did. So it's shared. But this is the 150 score sheet that I got. So you like entered it hundreds of competitions and 150. They don't give those out much. This is roughly the recipe. I'm not sure it's the exact one because I was modifying the recipe, but they're all good. The Vienna here is probably optional because some argue that Pilsner and Munich mixed together at 50-50 is basically Vienna. So you could probably go 50-50 on it. And then Special 3 or Special 2 would be fine too. I would avoid Special 1. Just give it some color and some chocolate wheat, midnight wheat, whatever you want to get the color you're looking for. And then Magnum, 25 IBUs, first wort hop, 90-minute boil, and then another 10 IBUs of middle fruit. This one is distributed across oil, the typical like 60, 30, 15, 5. Just kind of calculate how you like. I don't know if it really matters that much, especially in that beer. But that's the recipe, and then ferment with the lager yeast of choice. 3470 is great, fantastic in this beer. It's nice and dry, has a little sulfur character. I've used other yeasts with it as well. They both turn out pretty good. I've got 2 kegs of this sitting in there right now. I enter this all the time, and I do really well with that beer, like super score well all the time. Wins medals. It's less worried about the oxygen on that one. Like I'm not putting any K-meta in that at all. Let's see, I might have one more. Oh, that's it. So yeah, happy I answered a lot of these questions already. Didn't have any COA if you guys compete in the MHB questions, but I would answer those or anything else. But like I said, I mean, there's a million ways to do this. I think if you've listened to enough podcasts or watched enough things, or like everybody's got their own opinions. So for what it's worth, take it or leave it.